Hi everybody, welcome back. We're getting close to the end of Unit 2 here. We've got this week and we've got next week. Yeah, woo indeed. So we do have a couple of assignments left. Build a blog is officially due today. I know that some of you are maybe not quite there yet. That's fine. I know that some people might be feeling like they're a little bit behind. I don't think it's time to panic just yet, but I do think that it's definitely time to try and come up with a plan to get back on track if that is the category that you're currently in. So please talk to us, please talk to me, please talk to your TAs. Let us know what we can do to help you stay on track. The end of this unit is going to work similarly to the end of the last unit. There will be a week in between Unit 2 and Unit 3, and there's a hard deadline. The Thursday, I guess it'd be 2 weeks from this Thursday would be the hard deadline. So we expect you to have everything from Unit 2 submitted before you proceed on to Unit 3, and we would expect that by 2 weeks from Thursday. So that means you've got basically 2.5 weeks to finish up from wherever you are at right now. So again, please let us know what help you need to make that happen. We want to help you. We want to get as many people across that finish line as possible. So let us know what you need. Let us know what we can do to make sure that that happens for you. The last assignment is out now, I believe. Blogs is the final assignment for Unit 2. And the way the last couple weeks of class is structured, we actually are going to have a fair amount of open time for you to work on assignments or catching up on assignments, however you view it. There are still at least 1 or 2 studios left, but we're not going to be doing a studio every day. In fact, today we don't have a studio. There's no in-class work. So, use that to your advantage as well. I know it's tempting after a long day. You just want to go home and take it easy, but I would encourage you to keep pushing ahead, keep using this time wisely. Take advantage of the resources that you have while they're available to you, and keep getting that work done. Any questions about logistics for the end of Unit 2 / beginning of Unit 3 before we hop into today's material? Any questions? I think I mentioned this before, but I've had a few other people ask me just to make it clear. As far as I know, it's not my decision, but as far as I know, we are going to be doing Java in Unit 3. That is the plan right now. I suppose that could change, although I kind of doubt it. I've been told that we're going to be doing Java, and so unless you hear otherwise, that's what you should expect to be doing for Unit 3. But that's still a couple weeks away, so we're not going to worry about that today, although if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to talk to you about it ahead of time. Just fly me down after class today. We can have a chat. Today, we have a little bit of material to cover, although there's no walkthrough, there's no studio, like I said, so we're just going to do a quick little review session, and then I'll get out of your way and let you work on whatever it is that you are currently working on. So let's have a conversation about cookies. What is a cookie? Can somebody... delicious? Is that what I heard? I don't know about that one. I can't say I've ever tried to eat these kinds of cookies. Probably tastes a little too binary for my liking. Yeah, no, it wasn't that good. What's up? What's a cookie? Small amount of data saved. Saved somewhere. Where's that somewhere? Client side. It's saved on your computer. It's saved on your computer. You guys have cookies on your computer right now. Probably hundreds of them or thousands of them. And it's been that way for a while, for a long time. They've been there this whole time. Whether you realized it or not, they are there. So why? What are we using them for? What are some things that websites are using cookies for? Ad tracking. So we're going to talk about that, or we can talk about it now since we brought it up. How does that work? How does it track ads? Or how does it use cookies to show you particular ads? Yeah, what's up? Right, so there are limitations of cookies, right? Namely, cookies only can affect one domain. One cookie has one domain associated with it, so to get around that little restriction, what do? They embed a small chunk of some other website in their page. When you go, so one of the most popular ad networks out there is Google Ad Services, right? So what Google does, one of the way it works is when you sign up for Google Ad Services, they give you a little chunk of code and you put it on your website. And so anybody who visits your website is also actually technically visiting Google, right? You can't see it. It's usually not visible on the page. It can just be like a small chunk off in the corner, very tiny, very small, not even aware that it's there. But then other pages who are also on that network are going to have that same little piece of code on their web page, right? So when you go visit those other pages, it's going to say, oh, hey, cool, you were also at this page, and now you're at this page, and I'm going to keep track of all the places that you've been. And then that one time at 2 in the morning when you decided to look up 6-pound bags of gummy bears on Amazon.com, you're just going to start getting advertisements all over the place for gummy bears and other various types of candy, right? That's how it works. It wasn't for me, I swear. My wife really likes gummy bears. It was a gift. But that's how ad networks work, and they're very effective, right? I think you've probably noticed this. In fact, it seems to me like it's getting worse in terms of how well they're able to track what you're doing these days. It's really kind of annoying. But yeah. So how can we stop it? What can we do if we don't like that? Yeah, you can get rid of your cookies, but what are the disadvantages of doing that? That's how they get you, right? That's how they get you. Cookies are convenient. They make our lives easier by performing useful things. Like, I don't want to have to log in every time I go to a website. I want you to keep me logged in. I want you to remember that I logged in. How does it do that? It stores a little cookie that says, okay, yep, you logged in. I know who you are, right? You don't have to log in again. So, cookies do good things. What are some other good things that cookies might do for us? Anybody have any other ideas? Login information? Yeah, sure. I mean, they do other things too. How many times? So, they can actually have positive commercial appeal as well. Like the same example I was talking about before. If I'm browsing, shopping late at night, and I put some stuff in my cart, right? I put that 6-pound bag of gummy bears in my cart or whatever, and then I'm like, well, it's 2 in the morning. Maybe I had a beer or two, and maybe I shouldn't make this purchase right now, right? Maybe I shouldn't go through with it. And so I don't buy it, but I leave, and then I come back the next day, and what do I see? I see there's a 6-pound bag of gummy bears in my shopping cart. How does it know that? There's a cookie. There's a cookie on my computer saying, hey, this guy almost drunkenly bought gummy bears last night. It remembers, right? That's how it can remember how you've interacted with the website. That's one way that it uses cookies for that purpose. So there are lots of very legitimate uses for cookies, lots of very convenient things that cookies are used for. Yeah?
So shopping cart information is all typically stored client side and cookies is not?
It can be, certainly, yeah. I don't want to say always. I don't really like speaking in absolutes, but yeah, certainly can be represented as cookies. Yep. That is one common way that it will be implemented. It might also, so just because I'm storing something on a cookie, right, does not mean that I'm not also storing it somewhere else. I can still store that information in a database. In fact, it probably is going to be stored in a database somewhere for other purposes. Yeah. So you can turn cookies off. That is definitely a thing, but your internet usage is going to change as a consequence of that, and that's kind of how they get you. That's kind of the catch. So let's talk a little bit more about details of how we operate with cookies. What does a cookie header look like? If I'm passing information back and forth in relation to cookies, what's that look like? Set cookie. So where's that coming from? That's coming from the server. The server's sending a command in the header to my computer or your computer or whoever's accessing the website that they want your computer to set a cookie, right? And so then your computer will comply with that request unless you've turned off cookies or done something to prevent that from happening. When I tell you to set a cookie, what does that cookie actually look like? What does the data look like? It's a key value pair. Where else have we seen key value pairs? Dictionaries. They feel very similar to dictionaries, right? So the key and value can be anything. It can be absolutely anything. It depends on what the website wants it to be. And my browser, my computer will comply with that request unless I specifically tell it that I don't want to. So in terms of what we've been talking about, right? What kinds of information? So how about for our app, for example, what kinds of cookies might we expect for FlickList? Have we been using cookies for FlickList? That's actually something a little bit down the line, right? Session cookies. So what's a session cookie? It's a little different. Goes back to the idea of a session, which we talked about last week, right? So what's a session then? Anybody remember? That's the implementation. Yeah, it's a dictionary object. That's true, right? But what actually is a session? I mean, can we be more general than that? It's a connection. It's a channel of communication between my computer and a server somewhere, right? It's a channel of communication. And so when I interact with that session object that was mentioned, right? What am I actually doing? I'm making cookies, right? I'm making cookies. I'm setting cookies to the session cookie. But we haven't really quite nailed down what exactly is the difference between a session cookie and just a regular old cookie. Are they encrypted? I hope that they all are. I hope that they all are. How it's used? Mm-hmm. We could still do that with regular cookies too, though. There's nothing stopping us. It really has to do more. Yeah, what's up? Sessions aren't permanent. Sessions don't last forever. As soon as I close the browser, all sessions are cut off, right? So any cookies that have been set as a result of those sessions would be deleted at that point in time. So cookies, by their very nature, are temporary, right? What dictates how temporary cookies are? There's an expiration date that can be set, right, for cookies. So they're all temporary by their nature, but session cookies are especially temporary because anytime the session is closed, those cookies are gone. So you can think of session cookies as being very fleeting, whereas normal cookies can last a very long time if you want them to. In fact, you can effectively make them last forever, right, if you really want them to. That's the biggest difference. Cool. Trying to think of what other information I wanted to talk about today. So we talked about session cookies. So we talked about cookies in Flask, right? So we've actually been using session cookies in Flask. That's anytime we access the session object, that's what we've been using, are session cookies. But what about the normal kinds of cookies? Can I use those in Flask? I think we might be going off the beaten path a little bit here. That's okay. Does anybody know or familiar with that? This is something actually that I think was not included on the prep work, but something I wanted to talk to you about anyway. And the answer is, yeah, sure, you can. So let's take a look at the documentation, right? This seems like something that's reasonable to do. We may not know exactly how to do it. So let's take a look at the documentation and see if there's some examples out there about how we can use cookies in Flask. And here's the very first result from Googling Flask Cookies, right? If I scroll down a little bit, you can see that there's actually, right here, whoops, oh, I zoomed in too far, whoops. Where did it go? Here we go. If I want to request a cookie, right? Request.cookies. So there's a cookies field as part of the requests. That request is the same thing that we use for passing parameters, right? Back and forth, query parameters and the post values, right? From forms back and forth between our pages. So there's also cookies that I can use in there. And then if I want to set a cookie, right? It's a little bit more complicated, but not really that bad. I have to make a response and then call set cookie on that response. And you can see that when I make a response, I'm actually rendering the template as part of that process. So it just adds 2 extra steps, I guess, to the process if I want to actually start using proper cookies on my website. This isn't something that we're necessarily going to ask you to do as part of your assignments or part of the class, but I did think it was important enough to take a few minutes and discuss how Flask would do it in case you want to use that as a part of a personal project or something like that in the future. We have been using session cookies though, and we'll continue to do so for this class. Cool. What else do we have? I think I've covered most. Oh yeah, so how do we prevent people from making fake cookies? Or what would be the disadvantage if somebody makes a fake cookie? Let's talk about that first. If we were able to make whatever cookies we wanted, what would be the disadvantage of that? Somebody could maybe get your information, or you could pretend to be somebody that you're not. Yeah, that's a really big one, right? Right. Cookies are used to remember who's logged in, right? So if I can make a cookie that says that I'm logged in as this particular person and convince the server that that's real, then I've effectively gained access to that person's account. So that's a big problem. How do we prevent it from happening? A secret key, encryption. That's why we have to set up the secret key in Flask in order to use those things. It's not sending, if I look at a cookie, the prep video actually showed this. If I look at a cookie, it's not saying email equals so-and-so, right? Or at least I hope not. It's saying XQV279, right? It's saying a bunch of what looks like gibberish because it's been encrypted so that anybody who wants to read that has no idea what it actually means, what that content actually is. A lot of times that's done for us automatically. Flask is very conscious of that. Flask is very aware of the need to encrypt cookies, which is why I think you might remember the other day when we were doing the logins stuff, I forgot to set the secret key, and Flask told me, it was like, I'm not going to do this. You got to give me a secret key. I got to encrypt these things, or I'm not going to do it. It didn't give me the option, and that's pretty standard, actually. Let's see. I think we covered it all, actually. What questions do you have about cookies? Yeah, Zach. Yeah, actually, that's exactly right. If it's storing my login status as a cookie, and when I go in and actively tell it to log out, it's sending a set cookie message that basically deletes the cookie. How does it do that? How does it delete the cookie? Expiration date. Sets the expiration date to be like right now. And the cookie will automatically expire. Yep, that's exactly right. Cookies have been in the news somewhat recently. You might have noticed it didn't always used to be like this. The internet used to be a little bit more of a Wild West kind of situation. People were using cookies, us, the users, didn't necessarily even know, right, or understand what was going on. Now, actually, with a lot of websites, you'll see it pops up with a message at the bottom that says, we're using cookies as part of this website, right? And by continuing to use this website, you understand and accept that we are doing this. They don't give you really a way of opting out of it. They're just informing you that it's happening, and then if you don't like it, then you have to leave, basically, right? That's the more common approach to it these days. But the fact that that message even exists, I think a lot of us might find that to be annoying, right? Oh, there's that stupid message again. Just click the button, get out of my face. I'm just trying to use the website, right? But actually, that's a step in the right direction. They're trying to take something that was hidden behind the scenes and not very well known and bring it more to the forefront so that people are actually aware that yes, these websites are putting data on your computer. You're actually, in a sense, like renting out a chunk of space to these websites to use, right? They're not paying you for it or anything. They're actually making money off of you because of it. And in exchange, you get a little bit of convenience. A little bit of extra stuff that the website can do. Is that worth it? Probably. It's a tough question.
I feel like we all get a slice of the pie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these are the kinds of questions that are still to be resolved, still unsettled. We see privacy issues coming more and more into play these days. Facebook's been involved in a whole bunch of stuff. There's databases and stuff getting hacked every other day, it seems like, anymore. So it's not going to go away, and these issues aren't going to stop anytime soon. And questions like that, like is it worth it, are questions that, you know, may need to be looked at a little bit more closely. If you haven't tried it lately, I might encourage you take a day or two, or you might not even last a day. Turn off your cookies and go around and do the stuff that you normally do and see what happens. You might think that it's not going to be that bad. Oh, I have to log in, all right, every time I go to a website. Well, let's see how long you can put up with that and see what other stuff breaks too. It's not just logging into websites that's going to break. See what other stuff will break too that makes your life harder. Some websites just flat out will not work, and they'll straight tell you that, hey, you're trying to use this website, but I'm not going to do anything until you turn your cookies back on. Can you do without that website? Can you find an alternative or just not use it? In some cases, maybe yes. In other cases, maybe no. And so they're basically saying, you know, if you want to use this website, you have to play by our rules, and that means we're going to put stuff on your computer to track what you're doing. Right? That's the world we live in these days. Yeah.
You edits stored on not just delete them, but actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you can see the cookies on your computer. Sure. Let me. I don't know exactly where they're stored, but I bet I can find them. Where are cookies stored? Firefox, Chrome. I'm using Chrome mostly. Where does Chrome store cookies? Let's see if we can figure this out. Users. All right, cool. I can find this. This is a little risky. I'm basically showing you my browser history. I don't know how comfortable I feel about that. We'll see. I'm also recording my browser history and posting it on YouTube. That's, oh boy. This is a bad idea. This was a very bad idea. But I feel like I'm committed now. Google, Chrome, user data. So, safe browsing cookies. I don't know what that is. Hang on. What did it say? User data default? Default. All right, there's cookies right there. Lots of cookies. Accounts, yeah. So there's actually nothing too obvious here about what's going on. I like how there's just a folder here called cookies. I'm not opening that right now, sorry. It's not going to happen, but that is presumably where they would be. Now, actually, I kind of suspect that if I did open that up, that it may not even be something that I could even look at and understand what's going on. I'm not going to take that chance right now, but I suspect I suspect that that may be the case, that even the data in there is not in a form that humans would be able to easily understand. You all are not recording your computers right now, so if you want to take a peek for yourself, then by all means, go ahead. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the power that we have as users, right? Yes, they're storing data on our computer, but it is our computer, and we can actually go in and delete those if we want to. At any time, we can just say, I'm tired of you doing this. I'm just going to get rid of everything, and that will have an effect. That will, if you go clear out your cookies, you will notice that the ads aren't going to be as targeted towards you anymore until it gets a better idea of who you are again and what sites you've been visiting. You know, wield that power however you see fit, I guess. Great questions. Any other questions? Anything else? That's all that was on our agenda today. I know it's kind of a short little session, but you know, we've got 2.5 hours. There's no studio review tonight either, right? Because there's no studio today. So I know you might be looking at today and thinking like, all right, cool, break time, let's go home and party while it's still nice outside. You're adults, I'm not going to stop you, but I also think that you should consider using this time. You've already got it set aside for this purpose. You've got assignments left to finish, so I would encourage you to take advantage of that and let us know how we can help get you across the finish line of Unit 2. So, thanks a lot.